Hey there, friendships. Welcome back to Curtis's Corner. If you are new here, welcome to the Friend Zone. I put out videos every single week, including makeup videos, movie reviews, trailer reactions, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So if that interests you, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that way you know when I post a brand new video. This, however, is not any of those series. This is a brand new series that I am dubbing the name The Scare Score. So if you don't know what this means, I will explain it to you. Basically, a few months back, I was watching James A. Janisse, who does a video series on his own channel, which is called Dead Meat. I will link it down below as well. You can go check him out. This is where I got my idea from, and I tweeted back at him back on May 30th, and just asking him if I could kind of go with an idea that I have that inspired me from what he does. And he tweeted back saying, you know, go for it. So that's what I'm here to do. So basically, I know that there is a big audience who loves horror movies. I'm part of that. But there is also, because I know some friends, like I have friends who don't like horror movies at all, like in the slightest. So this is basically going to be catered towards those people who are intrigued of the idea, but they don't really want to watch it because they don't like that fear that is going to come into them. With James's blessing, I now give you the Scare Score. So a little more information before we actually start getting into the counting of everything. All right, so in this series, we're going to be looking at different horror movies and talking about the plot. I'm going to be showing you clips of the movies as we talk about it and just basically counting up how many scares there are in each of these films. At the end of each video, we are going to tally up how many scares there were in the film, how many scares on average the film has, and I'm going to be awarding my best scare. I'm not going to do a best and worst scare because I feel like that's way too much like James's, because he does a best kill and a worst kill. I'm only going to do my favorite scare, and that's it. Now with the editing that I'm going to have to do with this video as well, these are going to be coming out not as frequently as all my other videos. So just be aware of that, because I do 2 videos a week. Right now I'm doing one because of quarantine, but like every Monday I'm posting a video. It used to be every Monday and Friday, but I can't really do Friday videos right now. And then it's every second Tuesday that I'm doing trailers, which I'm getting back into. So these ones it's going to be very far and few between, but I will have each different series, and I'm going to be following that series until it's all done. And then on the very final one, I will be letting you know what my next series will be. This might come out like once every month, maybe, depending on as well as how much time, because I am going back to work as well. Just bear with me when I do this new series. But yeah, so what better series to start off this new series than my favorite horror franchise, the Conjuring universe. So if this is a series that interests you, be sure to hit that like button. Let's get to the scares. The movie opens with an ominous, blaring brass instrument debuting the studio's logos that were involved in producing the film. The screen fades to black, and a woman speaks about how scared she is. A man's voice responds, telling her to elaborate. Our first scare comes at just 33 seconds into the film, with a close-up of a doll with a cracked eye. This scene shows 3 people sitting on a couch explaining the events that had happened to them, involving the doll. Though one of the people in this scene is never actually like explained why they're there, and they never actually talk. They're just there just to kind of like fill up the couch. So like, why bother having him there in the first place? We are told from the on-screen text that the year is 1968 and that the doll's name is Annabelle, who will go on to spawn a trilogy of spin-off films and kick off the start of an entire extended horror universe. The 2 women explain that they found out from a medium that a girl named Annabelle died in their apartment. They admitted they gave permission for the spirit to enter the body of the doll. In a flashback, the 2 women walk into their apartment, assuming after a shift at work, as they're wearing scrubs. They find on the floor a terrifying note that says, "Miss me?" Now, we don't know who this note could be from. For all we know, that it could be from that random guy that was on the couch. The ominous music, however, tells us otherwise. Luckily, we don't have to wonder for too long about who wrote the note as they look down the hall and see Creeperella, Annabelle, sitting against a wall staring at them. The blonde woman looks into a room with flickering lights. Such a waste of electricity. Broken pictures and red crayons scribbled everywhere. Annabelle, you naughty doll, you. After seeing another creepy-looking "Miss Me" message, this time on the ceiling, a crayon rolls into the room. Girls, I think Annabelle would like you to reply to her message. Don't be rude. But instead of being pen pals, the brunette, who we find out is named Debbie, picks Annabelle up and just throws her in the dumpster. That is no way to treat a new friend. The two friends are woken up by some loud knocking at their door. Our second scare comes at 2 minutes and 53 seconds with an even louder bang at the door. When Debbie opens the door, the hallway is empty except for a piece of paper on the ground with the message, "Miss me?" When Debbie looks back at her friend, we are greeted with our third scare at 3 minutes and 37 seconds with a loud knock beside her. She opens the door and is shocked. We switch back to the present time and finally are introduced to the two people in the room with the victims of Annabelle, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, who are playing Ed and Lorraine Warren. The camera focuses on Annabelle again and turns into a video recording as they explain who they are and what they do to an auditorium of students. The frame freezes and fades as scrolling text explains who they are in more detail, and we are finally told the title of the film with our first title card. The year is now 1971 in Harrisville, Rhode Island. We're introduced to the Perrin family who have just moved into this new house, which we got a tour of in a single shot frame following the different members of the family as they unpack all of their belongings. The youngest daughter, April, finds an old music box by a tree while her older sister, Cindy, calls her inside. Cindy's playing a game called Hide and Clap with her two older sisters, Nancy and Christine. While playing, Nancy bumps into a wall, revealing a hidden basement they didn't know was there. Carolyn and Roger, their parents, look outside at their dog Sadie barking at them. They decide to go to sleep, leaving her chained outside. The next morning, Carolyn wakes up to a sound in her room, but nothing's there. She notices bruises on her legs from her and Roger christening the house. You naughty naughties. She checks on her kids to make sure they're all right, and Christine tells her she's cold. Maybe you shouldn't have opened up the basement, should you have, Roger? The oldest daughter, Andrea, angrily comes out of her room, and the best lines in movie history are said between her and Carolyn. Roll clip.
And there was this really funky smell in my bedroom last night. Reeked like something died.
Is it still there?
No.
Problem solved.
It's a very accurate depiction of how a mother would respond to her child, and the chemistry between all the actors are amazing. Carolyn ventures to the basement to find Roger replacing a light. I think you need to practice a little bit more there, Carolyn. April runs outside looking for Sadie the dog while Carolyn points out something odd about the clocks in the house to Roger. April screams from outside, and if you don't like seeing dead animals, look away for a second. Roger and Carolyn run to April and see Sadie is dead on the ground. There's nothing gory in this scene shown, but it is noticeable to the actors that the dog is dead, and by the ominous music that plays, we're told as well. We also see like a lifeless kind of fur on the ground as well, but again, it's not gory at all. We're now in Monroe, Connecticut, in Ed and Lorraine Warren's home. Ed gives a tour to who I assume is a journalist of his room holding all artifacts from cases they have investigated in the past. There's some mysterious talk going on about Lorraine and what happened to her during an exorcism. We're never told exactly what happens to her until The Conjuring 2, which we will cover on this series. Back at the Perrins, another clock stops at 3:07 in the morning. Christine is sleeping when we get our fourth scare at 20 minutes and 14 seconds by a leg pull, which she just thinks is her sister, Nancy. Then again, at 20 minutes and 40 seconds, just 26 seconds after the fourth scare, we got our fifth scare with switching the scene to static on the TV. Roger, wake up. Don't you know your TV is playing on the other side of the room? Roger's woken up to the sound of loud knocking and goes to check it out. It's a very suspenseful scene as he walks toward the swinging door, but we're assured it's only from the wind from the open window. Another knock is heard from upstairs, and we're greeted by Andrea standing like a creepy mother on the stairs. She explains to her dad that the knocking is coming from her sister Cindy sleepwalking. You're gonna need some aspirin for that headache later there, Cindy. Can someone get her a helmet or something, please? The next morning, Roger points out another bruise on Carolyn, who he asks to go and see a doctor. There's another animal warning here, so just, if you're not wanting to see it, look away. This time, a pigeon is heard flying into the house, and we see it twitching on the ground before it stops moving. You can look now. As the four oldest girls go to school, April is talking to someone in her room. She tells her mom she's talking to Rory, and to see him, she needs to look through the spinning mirror in the music box she found by the tree. As the music plays, we see small parts of a shadowy figure. The music stops and we're given our 6th scare from April, jumping into the screen at 26 minutes.
Ew, Mommy!
April really wants to play hide and clap with her mom, Carolyn. After begging her mother, she finally agrees. As Carolyn walks around blindfolded and asks for her daughter to clap so she can find her, the claps bring her into Andrea's room when the doors to the closet that Cindy was headbutting open up. We see 2 hands come out of the closet and clap, which makes Carolyn walk toward them. This scene is probably one of the most suspenseful scenes in this entire movie, and it just gives me the creeps even just like thinking about it right now, and I love how amazingly this was shot. The doors open wide, and Carolyn walking towards the door seems like it is taking forever to get to the closet. The music is eerie, and Carolyn points out that she can hear breathing from the closet. The scene ends on a worse note when April is shown entering Andrea's room, and we find out that the hands aren't actually April. That night, Christine's foot is pulled again. I'm not going to count this as a scare as it was previously done, and at this point we're just kind of expecting it right now. I will, however, count this one, as she is dragged down her bed at 29 minutes and 47 seconds. This scene is filled with lots of suspense and really plays with your imagination. And while there really could be someone standing behind the door, like Christine says, I personally don't see anybody in there, even when I enhance the brightness and enhance the quality as much as I possibly could. But that also puts in your mind and makes it even creepier in my opinion. Nancy goes to look behind the door and mentions a bad smell. As Christine tells her this, we hear a loud exhale as Nancy turns to our 8th scare at 32 minutes and 52 seconds with the slamming of her door. Christine screams and her family rushes in. She says whatever she saw talked to her. What I don't get though in this entire scene is why Nancy doesn't say anything. She might not have seen anything there, but she smelled something and she definitely saw that door slam shut by itself. So like, why not say anything? We switch to a scene where the Warrens are investigating a case, which they debunk immediately as nothing more than an old house. Switching back to the parents, we are now informed that Carolyn is taking iron deficiency pills to help prevent with her bruising. As she folds laundry, she hears someone laugh and playing hide and clap. She sees all the girls are sleeping as we get our 9th scare at 37 minutes and 6 seconds from an extremely loud crash, followed by a giggle. As Carolyn investigates, we see all the pictures fell off of the wall. She hears another clap, and then the basement door opens. Hey, wait a minute, I know that song. As Carolyn tries to leave, she's hit by the basement door and gives us our 10th scare at 39 minutes and 11 seconds as she falls down the stairs. A ball is thrown, and the light explodes as Carolyn runs back up the stairs. There's more laughing, and then we are given our 11th iconic scare at 40 minutes and 38 seconds after Carolyn is asked to play her favorite game.
Hey, wanna play hide and clap?
Meanwhile, Andrea wakes up to Cindy playing her favorite drum solo on the closet. After putting Cindy in her bed, Andrea hears the closet doors knocking. Cindy sits up and gives us our 12th scare at 42 minutes and 40 seconds into the film, with a scary looking mofo jumping on Andrea. Everyone runs into the room as Roger gets home, confused. In Wakefield at a university, where the Warrens are showing an exorcism they performed on film, it is hinted at that this is the exorcism that affected Lorraine. Ed explains how possession works and what signs to look out for. Carolyn, who attended the same seminar, begs for the Warrens' help, which they agree. Lorraine is giving Roger some major side-eye before being introduced to their kids, which again she gives a small side-eye to. Jeez, Lorraine, way to judge the family. The parents explain everything that's been happening to them. After being brought to the basement, Lorraine admits something awful happened here.
Something awful happened here.
Yeah, Lorraine, I just said that. Ed makes a recording of an interview with Roger and Carolyn. While Lorraine talks to April about Rory, we finally see a spooky boy in the mirror behind Lorraine. She goes to the tree where April found the music box and hears a straining, stretched out kind of sound as Ed approaches. She turns around and almost faints at the sight of someone's corpse hanging just behind Ed. Lorraine explains that the only way to escape what they're going through is to have an exorcism on their house. Back at the Warrens, Ed shows Lorraine the recording that he made at the parents, showing the audio is silent except when he spoke. Lorraine explains the history of the property the parents are living on. Some creepy sounds are heard as the tape player starts playing on its own, and the Warrens' clock is shown to have stopped at 3:07 in the morning. Now, the next few moments of this film are some fantastic camera work and editing skills, which show different transitions seamlessly putting together like a long time jump, just like a stretch of time where it shows Drew setting up different cameras and heat sensors all around the different rooms. A door slowly opens, which makes a bell jingle, but it's only Officer Brad going to the bathroom. Really? How about maybe a little heads up next time? As Ed lays crosses around the house, another bell goes off. The basement door opens and Ed and Lorraine go to investigate the basement. When they return upstairs, the door slams shut. I'm not going to count this as a scare because we already know something was going to happen. And again, you're already kind of expecting something to happen at this point. The next morning, Lorraine is folding laundry when the sky starts to get dark. Lorraine goes to grab another sheet when our 13th scare comes at us at an hour and 7 minutes into the film, with the sheet wrapped around someone. The sheet blows up to Carolyn's window and shows a figure in the window. This figure is the same one from the tree, which we learned during our history lesson is Bathsheba. Finger-shaped bruises appear on Carolyn's arm, and our 14th scare comes only 27 seconds after, when Carolyn jolts up with a scream and we see a close-up of Bathsheba vomiting red ooze into Carolyn's mouth. You're nasty and you need Jesus. Lorraine tries to get into the bathroom that Carolyn is vomiting in, and as she tries another door, Carolyn acts like nothing is wrong. Lorraine, I don't think, is buying it though. We get a bit more detail about what happened to Lorraine during the exorcism, but like I said, we're not going to find out the full story until The Conjuring 2. Officer Brad looks outside on the deck as we hear an eerie whisper. As he gets more paranoid, he sees a maid showing him her cut wrists as she whispers again.
Look what she made me do.
At an hour and 12 minutes in, we get our 15th scare as Brad follows the maid who disappears only to scream at him after calling for Ed. Cameras are taking pictures of Cindy as she walks up the stairs, and we hear a door close and lock her into Andrea's room. Drew hears whispers from the room that she's in, and Ed takes a UV light to follow footprints into the closet. We're about to go to Narnia, yo! Cindy's found, and Lorraine goes in to the closet to try and find Narnia because, Cindy, you failed us. Lorraine pulls on a rope which is fashioned into a noose. Our 16th scare at an hour and 17 minutes shows us Lorraine falling through the floor all the way into the basement. More sounds are heard. What is that? Is that laughing? Is it crying? Pick an emotion here! Lorraine uses the music box to see where the crying is coming from. A woman holding a bloody knife and, oh my god, is that Rory? I thought he disappeared. The woman is saying, she slowly looks at Lorraine with her horrifying face. But when Lorraine looks back, she's gone. At just under an hour and 19 minutes, we get our 17th scare as Lorraine closes the box and, oh my god, she's right in front of her! More stretched rope is heard and the woman in yellow disappears. At an hour and 19 minutes, our 18th scare is shown with legs falling and swinging from the ceiling. Lorraine runs as the legs turn toward her and Bathsheba chases her. As Lorraine is running to the staircase, her locket gets yanked, giving us our 19th scare at just under an hour and 20 minutes. We're not holding back any punches right now with the scares as we continue on to get our 20th scare at an hour and 20 and a half minutes, where Nancy's hair is pulled and she's thrown through the room. The parents leave the house, which I still don't get because earlier in the film, Lorraine tells them that the demon has latched itself onto the family. So no matter where they went, the demon would follow. So I don't get that. Plus, are we just gonna ignore what happened to Carolyn with her creepiness and the vomiting? Lorraine hears a voice coming from the docks. Okay, I guess, yeah, okay. She sees her daughter in the water and calls home to check if she's okay. The parents pull up to a motel to stay the night, but I really don't think Carolyn likes this one. I think she's more of a 5-star hotel type myself. At the Warrens' house, Judy's locket starts spinning, as does the one from Lorraine in the parents' basement. Judy's leg is pulled as we get our 21st scare at an hour and 25 minutes in. She wakes up. As Judy walks through the house, we get our 22nd scare at an hour and 26 minutes as thunder crashes and lightning flashes inside the haunted artifact room that is supposed to stay closed and locked. We see Annabelle is not in her case, and as Judy goes back to her room, lights start turning off. A growl and thunder make Judy run into a room to hide. 10 bangs against the door makes Judy scared as the light in the room dims dark. We see someone rocking in a chair brushing Annabelle. Girl, is that Bathsheba? What you doing here? She stops and Annabelle looks at Judy, who panics, trying to escape the room. Judy's grandmother wakes to her screams and tries to get her out. The chair is empty now. Ed and Lorraine get home and the empty chair turns toward Judy. At an hour and 28 minutes, the chair flies towards Judy as Ed opens the door just in time to save her, giving us our 23rd scare. Roger and Drew drive back to the motel. Why did you leave in the first place? Andrea says Carolyn, Christine, and April all left. Roger calls the Warrens and is told to go back to the house. Brad fires a shotgun to open the door. Screaming is heard from the basement where Drew and Roger are fighting with Carolyn, who is trying to stab Christine with scissors. That's not how you give a haircut, Carolyn. Ed and Roger are dragging Carolyn outside while she screams and flails. Carolyn is thrown back and dragged to the basement, yelling for her husband. Roger! She's thrown around the room as Drew searches for April. When I first saw the scene, I will say I was laughing because of how she's just spinning and crashing and everything. I thought, while terrifying, I don't believe that this is not a terrifying experience for anyone who may have experienced this. I was still laughing at visually how insane it looked. Carolyn punches Roger, chokes Ed, bites Brad. Lorraine wraps Carolyn in a sheet. At an hour and 35 minutes, we get our 24th scare as Carolyn screams as holy water is thrown on her. Everything on the walls falls and shakes. 25 seconds later, we get our 25th scare as a bird crashes through the window of the car that Christine is in. Look away now as I show this next clip for animal lovers. 26 seconds later, we get our 26th scare as a bird flies in front of Drew in the doorway, while another bird gets stuck in the house window. You can look now. The house is surrounded by birds. A pigeon flies through the basement window. Carolyn coughs up blood. Bathsheba reveals herself through the sheet. Everything goes silent as Carolyn slowly floats into the air and turns upside down. Carolyn falls to the ground. Ed dodges a falling cabinet and Carolyn laughs. She sends a not-so-subtle message.
She's already gone. And now you're all gonna die.
Before shooting a shotgun at Ed. Drew finds April.
I found her! She's under the house, under the kitchen!
Drew, good job. Now Carolyn Sheba knows where she is. Carolyn crawls through the floor space to find April. At an hour and 40 minutes, we get our 27th scare as Carolyn peeks through a hole and April screams. Roger screams for her to stop. Lorraine screams for her to stop. Ed calls out Bathsheba's name, which makes her Little Miss Grumpy Pants. Lorraine touches Bathsheba's head, which makes her turn back to Carolyn and tells her to remember the beach. Carolyn vomits whatever sludge from earlier in the film out of her. The family leaves the house and Carolyn's bruises disappear. April gives Lorraine her missing locket. Ed and Lorraine return home and place Rory's music box in the artifact room. The movie ends with a quote from Ed and Lorraine and a pan to Rory's music box as we slowly stare into the mirror while the music plays. The movie gives us our final scare at an hour and 46 minutes in with a cut to black. So how many scares did The Conjuring give us in our very first episode of the new series? Well, let's get to the score. There were 28 scares in The Conjuring, and with a runtime of an hour and 52 minutes, we have an average scare score of 1 scare every 4 minutes. I'm going to award the best scare to when Bathsheba was on top of the closet and jumped down onto Andrea. I would need to permanently wear my brown pants if that were me in that situation. The Conjuring came out in 2013 and spawned a sequel in 2016 with another currently in post-production, along with 3 spin-off films, one of which is a trilogy. I'll be looking at Annabelle in the next scare score, but until then, bye friendships.